The definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again with expecting different results. That's been the Steelers over the past 5 years since the COVID pandemic. Now, you may argue they have a new head coach, there's new there, but is it really all that different? They hired a coach that hopefully gives them a high floor but a low ceiling. They were afraid to make a big move at the quarterback position instead of playing it safe. They chose the secure route, the route that doesn't lead to the promised land, but doesn't lead to an embarrassment, which is holding this organization back. For those who don't know, I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and today I'm going to preview the 2026 Pittsburgh Steelers and really air out my grievances with this organization and the direction this team is currently headed. So if you're a fan of a rival team, you'll enjoy this a lot more. If you're a Steelers fan, I can't say I'll enjoy it too much, but it's the honest truth, and I hope you're ready for it. So let's jump into previewing the 2026 Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers made some moves in free agency, and I can't really say I cared for any of them for that matter. They let some guys walk, which is probably more on the positive side for me. Isaac Seumalo, Kenneth Gainwell, James Pierre I'm a little sad at, but the first two I mentioned, I believe were right to let walk. Kenneth Gainwell is not worth $7 million a year. He is only effective in the type of offense the Steelers ran last year, which is not an effective offense to run in the NFL. And Isaac Seumalo, as talented as he was when the Steelers first signed him, has had major injury issues, and he is getting older, and he is not really worth the long-term investment for a team that's trying to win. Even though I disagree with the thought process, losing Seumalo when you're trying to win is not the end of the world. But then they went out and spent money, and that's when my issues come into play. The first one being Michael Pittman Jr. Now, if they just trade for him, and it was that one-year contract that he was originally on, I wouldn't have cared for it, but I wouldn't have hated it as much as I do because they extended him. Now, why is that? Michael Pittman is a receiver that lacks separation ability. He has been regressing athleticism year over year in Indianapolis, and it's been noticeable. The Colts dumped him in a salary cap dump trade. Not because he is this good player that, we just couldn't keep him. No, they really didn't have interest in keeping him. They got a 6th-round pick, and they were going to cut him if they needed to. But the Colts got assets for him, so they took it. Now, Pittman goes to Pittsburgh, and the big thing is, yes, he's a cerebral player. Aaron Rodgers is probably going to like him a lot. But at the end of the day, does he really make the receiver room a lot better considering Rodgers last year did not feel comfortable throwing the football into tight window situations? No, he doesn't. And that's a big thing is they lack the awareness to bring in guys that fit well with their quarterback. And we can just keep on going down because Rico Dowdle makes 0 sense to bring in. He was a running back that had good yards with the Panthers last year. Dave Canales is a smarter run game designer than Mike McCarthy, and it's not even particularly close. Rico Dowdle also was not the lead back in Carolina. He had a good couple-week run in the season, and then Chuba Hubbard came back, and Dowdle went down the depth chart, and Hubbard took over and produced at a better, more consistent rate. Now you're going to take Jaylen Warren off the field, which is going to make you worse at the running back position, and Dowdle can't pass pro whatsoever. You're going to have him in there on 3rd downs, he's going to get obliterated, and your quarterback that you just had to bring back, and don't worry, we're going to discuss about him in here in a second, is going to throw him off the field. He will not be used on 3rd downs after he gets blown up one time, and Rodgers will not tolerate that. So this contract, it sounds good and all, is a bad one. It's a 2-year, $6 million contract. Doesn't sound big, but when you have a running back that's not going to be utilized by your quarterback that much, it's a stupid move. Then they actually made one move I like, Sebastian Joseph Day. He's over 30, so I have my complaints about that, but he's a solid interior defensive tackle. Jaquan Brisker. I am sorry, Steelers fans. I know you love Jaquan Brisker. I know you do. But I've never really bought into him because I think he's a horrible coverage safety. He is a box safety that is really only good utilizing playing the run game. If you have him in pass coverage, he's going to get exposed. If you want to listen to me talk more and more about how much I thought the Bears' secondary sucked last year, he was a big reason why. Because they would get burned and would have to get bailed out by turnovers over and over again. And turnovers are extremely fickle. They rarely come back to help you year in, year out. And, I mean, I gotta go to it. they brought back Aaron Rodgers, and this was the move that really kind of lowered my expectations into the abyss this year. Now, I know a lot of Steelers fans hate the word rebuild or even retool. It's a naughty, naughty word, but it's a good word when your team is in this situation. Aaron Rodgers does not help you win a game in the playoffs. We saw that last year against the Texans. We saw that against teams who were over 500 last year. And I understand he helped them win the division last year. But the Steelers had a gift of all gifts with Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson missing significant time last year. They're not going to get that again year over year. Maybe one of them gets hurt, but the two both going down for a long period of time is not going to happen again. The Steelers decided to run it back with a 40-year-old quarterback who wasn't a good quarterback last year. He won games, so people are going to focus on that. But you look at the numbers and everything pointing at you, he was a abysmal quarterback that got lucky. And that's been the Steelers' MO since Ben Roethlisberger injured his elbow. They've had bad quarterback play, but have somehow been able to win because they got lucky, because Mike Tomlin could squeeze blood from a stone. The Steelers did something which honestly didn't shock me. They underwhelmed me at the NFL draft. They took a lot of guys I wasn't fans of, and it's been the song and dance that I've said these guys won't work in Steelers uniforms, and they rarely have. But let's jump into it. To start off, I want to be happy, so I'm going to talk about my favorite player in this draft class, Eli Heidenreich. Now, he's not my best player, but he was the player I had the most fun watching by far. Heidenreich is a player that's probably going to start out as a wide receiver, and I hope he makes the team, as I view him as kind of the specialist that the team desperately needs. He's flexible. He can play running back, he can play wide receiver, he can play slot wide receiver, and I think he's going to be very valuable in return situations, as he has the proper build, proper knowledge to really attack in the kickoff return game, which is more or less a run play now. And also, he's a very good turner. He can turn on a dime. He'll be dynamic in punt return situations as well. Overall, Heidenreich, not my best player they took, but the player I'm happiest that they took because I really, really loved watching his film. Another guy I actually did like was Robert Spears-Jennings, and strictly because I think he can be a torpedo on special teams and maybe come in and play some coverage safety role. But overall, I look at him as that special teams guy that can just come downhill and light someone up. Gabe Rubio, I actually didn't watch any of him before the draft, and I watched him post-draft, and I gotta say, I was more impressed with him than I thought I was. When I first saw the pick made, I was anti it. I was like, you took a guy that I didn't watch or even hear about. I was honestly impressed while also annoyed, but then I went and I watched him, and he has really good size, really good athletic ability, and just something about him in the run game was ferocious. He did not give up in the run game, and he showed some pass rushing splash where I thought, maybe if he wasn't injured, he goes higher. I was overall very okay with this pick and turned out to be actually one of my favorite picks in this draft class. Riley Nowakowski, the tight end that's going to be a fullback, and I don't understand why they took him because I don't see how he's utilized in a Mike McCarthy offense. Maybe he's special teams only, but this team lacks so much talent they should have drafted some other guys before the 5th round that weren't just special teams only guys. So my big issue with this is talented player can catch the ball out of the backfield, but how much does McCarthy actually utilize him in his offense? And I don't expect it to be much. Caden Wetjen. This is probably the pick that annoyed me the most because A, I didn't think he was anything special, and B, I don't think he makes the team. Like Wetjen, when you watch him return punts and kicks at Iowa, it's very system oriented. The same system that I've seen Iowa put many guys in the NFL who haven't returned a lot of punts or kicks. They're more or less utilized as their positions. And Wetjen is a nothing burger at the wide receiver position. To the point, I don't even know if he would have been drafted if the Steelers didn't take him in the 4th round. Probably the most annoying pick to me just because it makes no sense, and I don't think he makes the team. You wasted a 4th round pick, the 121st pick in the NFL draft, on a guy that is probably on the roster bubble as we speak, and that's just abysmal. And don't worry, we're going to have a stretch of picks I'm going to complain about, because Jennings Dunker is next, and this is, again, annoying to me. because if he didn't have the mullet, if he didn't come from Iowa, this team would not have taken him. And I am convinced of that because they helmet scout more than anyone in the NFL. Iowa, hard-nosed football, rah, 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 black and yellow. That's what they did watching Dunker. Meanwhile, if you actually watch Dunker, and I'm sure every other team watched him and realized he is not an NFL offensive lineman. He ends up on his back far too often, and he is an older prospect, so you can't even make the argument that he's 21 years old, coming in, he can learn, he can develop. No, he is more of what he is. That's an offense lineman that's going to get blown off the ball constantly in the NFL and get abused in any pass rushing situation. Daylen Everette, I actually don't mind this pick. He's got some talent, played a lot of snaps. Maybe he can develop into a nickelback, but he's going to be very interesting. A bump and run guy. Turns everything to a sprint match, which actually I don't care for. I'd really like to see him knock that off, but he's got talent, so I can at least see the thought process in this pick. Drew Allar. Man, I forgot how bad this draft was for me until I just saw Drew Allar after just ranting about James Dunker. Drew Allar is the type of quarterback that I can understand taking, but also think you are an absolute idiot for drafting him, because I understand the talent. He has a rocket launcher attached to his arm, but there is a problem. He is not a good quarterback. You are drafting a quarterback who does not quarterback right. That is like drafting a receiver who does not catch right. It is an illogical move, and a move made by a coach who has a massive ego that says, I can fix him, I can fix him. Now, maybe he's going to excel in training camp. This is recorded before training camp even starts. Maybe he excels in the preseason. I don't care about any of that until I see him play an NFL game. And this team is going to refuse to send him out there because they're pushing for the playoffs. They want to make the playoffs. The best case scenario is he comes out and plays the final 5 games of the season. And we either see if I'm wrong and he's a home run pick, or if the Steelers are incompetent fools drafting guys because their egotistical coach thinks he can fix him, which he's probably not going to be able to because there's too much to fix. And you're going to delay the eventual drafting of a quarterback next year, which you should have maybe thought about doing sooner. But you wanted to keep on running retreads back out there and take these guys who aren't close to NFL caliber in the mid to late rounds. They did it with Will Howard last year. Will Howard was a quarterback I was extremely low on, and it sounds like he's not going to make the team this year. Drew Allar, maybe he's on the team for 2 to 3 years, but he'll never start a meaningful down in Pittsburgh unless they grow a brain at the end of the season this year. Jeremy Bernard. Jeremy Bernard, I think, is overhyped. I don't think he's this guy that's going to break out on the field, but I don't think he's a bad player. I watched Jeremy Bernard, and I saw a guy who can very much be a reliable third wide receiver, almost in a Jalen Nailor type role is what I've really called him, because that's what he reminds me of. Not someone that's going to blow the roof off the place, but a solid guy that can be there on third down conversions, occasionally have that big time game that helps their team win, but he's not going to be the one teams really worry about, lose sleep over, or game plan against. And now, hey, I can end happy, because unlike a lot of people, I was really happy when they drafted him. Max Iancher, I really love as a player. I think he's got great potential. His footwork is phenomenal for a developmental tackle, because he still is. He's very raw when it comes to power and base. He needs to improve on that. But his footwork, which is a big thing when you're drafting offensive tackles and just offensive linemen in general, it's so key. He has it down to a science. It's his hands that need work, and hands are a lot easier to fix than footwork, and that makes it a very exciting draft pick. And considering the Steelers have missed, and I was very against this pick when it was made, but Broderick Jones, I understand the high potential tackle pick that doesn't work out. I get Steelers fans. Iancher is a much better prospect than Broderick Jones ever was, and it's not even particularly close. There are moments in life that you sometimes wonder, like, what did I do wrong to deserve this? When the Steelers announced Mike McCarthy was their head coach, that's what I was thinking. What did I do wrong? Because I've never been a Mike McCarthy fan for a good while, and I remember the game that broke me when he was with the Green Bay Packers. It was the double Hail Mary game against Arizona Cardinals. I thought Mike McCarthy should have been fired there, and he kept his job. And then the Packers eventually fell apart because he's not the elite coach that a lot of people hoped he was being. Then he goes to Dallas, and the Cowboys, they're undisciplined to hell and back. They do not succeed all that much. They win a total of 1 playoff game in his tenure at Dallas. and he is off. And what do we see? Oh, it's the same arguments. Well, hey, the Cowboys, they were still good when he was there. Yeah. And then Jerry Jones traded Micah Parsons before Schottenheimer even had a chance. So you remove a team's best player, and as much as I love Dak Prescott, Micah Parsons was Dallas's best player, they're not going to be as good. And now my team hires him, and there's a couple reasons why they hired him. You got the ceiling and floor, which is probably a good sized reason, but let's be realistic here. He was hired because he's buddies or at least worked with the 40-year-old quarterback they had to bring back because you just had to bring back Aaron Rodgers. And he also is from Pittsburgh because they have to sign everyone from Pittsburgh, and it's annoying beyond the point. Something I didn't mention the draft part, a big reason why they took Drew Eller probably, he played college ball in Pennsylvania! Yay! And it's honestly just annoying to me at this point. If I wasn't so annoyed, I would actually find this hilarious. If I'm another team's fan, if like I'm a fan of the Ravens or the Bengals, I'm laughing at the Steelers over and over again, and I don't blame them. I don't blame a Broncos fan, a Chargers fan for laughing at the Steelers organization because they chased the most middling option in the world because they're afraid of a rebuild or retool. And it's hilarious. They could have hired Chris Shula, who maybe pops as a head coach, and you have a young, dynamic head coach for the next 10 to 20 years. But no, you hire the guy that's 60. Nate Scheelhaase, hey, from the Sean McVay tree, modern offense. Oh, we're going to run the same offense that was starting to become ineffective in playoff games 10 years ago. Oh, joy! Joy, joy, joy. The last time Mike McCarthy went on a really good playoff run was the same time the Steelers went on a really good playoff run. It was the NFC Championship game against the Atlanta Falcons in which the Falcons trounced them. And later that night, the Steelers got trounced by the Patriots. That was the last time Mike McCarthy went on a deep playoff run. Now, he made the divisional round one time in Dallas, and congratulations for that. But he underachieved with Dak Prescott, who is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Mike McCarthy has never succeeded without a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers and Dak Prescott elevated him to levels he otherwise wouldn't have seen. He goes to Pittsburgh now. Aaron Rodgers is at best a top 24 quarterback in the NFL, far removed from his prime playing days. And the defense is old, it's aging out. Not really good to help elevate a older quarterback not in his prime. The offensive line is good, hey, I'll give you that, but you hired a staff of a bunch of guys that I don't think is that big of an upgrade, if any, over the previous staff. You can argue defensive coordinator with Patrick Graham and Terrell Austin, and I'll hear that argument, and Patrick Graham probably is better. Offense coordinator is essentially Mike McCarthy, and you know what? He's better than Arthur Smith. You'll clear that low bar, but that's a low bar that's practically underneath the ground. That's around it. And the issue is this Steelers team is not as good as those Cowboys and Packers team he coached, and he failed with those teams. I want you to imagine what's coming this year. My season prediction on the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're a very hard team to judge because they did just have a winning season last year. As low as I am on this team, and a lot of it's just because I'm sick of the middling stuff, they're probably not outright a disaster. But that being said, I don't like this team. Like, when it comes down to it, they struggled to beat teams over 500 last year. And it showed when they made the playoffs, and it really showed whenever they played against a team over 500. I mean, the Bills, of all people, dominated them. The Bills, and they lost to the Dolphins last year. Like, that's just sad. And I kind of have this weird point that either they're going to shock me and they're going to be 10 wins, they're going to make the playoffs, or I'm 100% right and the bottom has finally fallen out. And I'm just leaning towards personally that the bottom is falling out because I think Mike McCarthy is just a substantial downgrade of a coach for Mike Tomlin. Because, like it or not, Tomlin had his flaws. Schematically, I would say McCarthy is probably better. But when it comes to leading a room, when it comes to really energizing a group of men to go out to battle, Tomlin had that on lockdown. For years, the roster that everyone noticed was like, yeah, this roster's not the greatest in the world, overachieved year in, year out. And a lot of people have pointed out, oh, that's just the Steelers. That's just the Steelers. Oftentimes, it's the man leading them. How many times have we seen a coach change and the bottom falls out because the coach was elevating the roster? I believe that's what we're seeing. And it's not in the traditional, like, oh, they were scheming up everything. Scheme, 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 scheme. I think it's going to be in the will to play the game of football. And a big reason why I go to this is the aforementioned Buffalo Bills game last year. Most coaches would lose that locker room, would lose everything after what the Bills did and all the fire Tomlin chants that happened after that game and during that game. Most locker rooms wouldn't have it in them to finish that season out strong. But Tomlin is able to squeeze blood from a stone like no one else. They won the division, which I'll give them credit in the world. I didn't see coming last year. But I also can see that Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson missed substantial time. And I said that over and over again because it needs to be repeated over and over again. If Burrow and Lamar don't miss substantial time, one of those teams wins the division. We saw Joe Flacco carve up the Steelers. Flacco. And you can point out scheme is different this year, but really what's different? They brought in Jamal Dean. Why? Because they want to run and go. They want to play man coverage. The Steelers, even though they weren't the most man coverage team last year, they were still decently high up there. And if you don't run man coverage, then Joey Porter Jr. is an outcast in the field. He really should not be out there all too much if you're going to be a zone coverage-based team. So you kind of force yourself in a situation that you have to be man. You have to be man. Because if you're not man coverage, then your top two corners are out to lunch every single down. And what's going to happen when you play the Bengals? Well, you're not going to be able to hold up against Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins. That's just not going to happen. And you're going to go against these teams that are going to be able to scheme up everything to go against your man coverage. Because man coverage is easier to beat in the modern NFL than it is zone coverage. Because zone coverage, you can throw flaws in there. You just man up across the board. Offensive coaches are so much better in the modern NFL. They're going to see that, and they're going to pick you apart. You are in a division with Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. They will eat you for lunch. You're in the same conference as Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Drake May. They will eat you for lunch. You have Sean Payton in your conference as an offensive mind. He will eat you for lunch. And that's the big issue. The Steelers have doubled down on with what they thought would work over and over again. And it hasn't yet. It's why I said in the beginning of this video, the definition of insanity. Because that's what they are. If Tomlin didn't step down, he would still be the Steelers head coach. They had no intention of firing him. So what did they do? They went out and they hired a high floor, low ceiling coach. Because they don't want to risk it. And that's where this team's going to be. Is they're either going to be completely failing as a team, as an organization, or they're going to be middle of the pack until something changes. And until that thing changes, they're going to be second or third in this division, most likely third, and they're going to miss the playoffs because teams in the AFC have surpassed them. I'd like to say thank you very much for watching this video. If you like this video, hit the like button for your channel. Hit that subscribe button for me to share this. I greatly appreciate it. I'm doing 32 in 32 days. 32 team previews in 32 days in a row. And hey, if you're a Steelers fan, go down in the comment section, comment your thoughts on this video, on this team in general. And I understand you may not like what I said, but as a Steelers fan, as someone who loves and cares about this team, I just wanted to speak my authentic truth of how I view this team. And if you disagree with me, that's 100% fine. We're all Steelers fans. If you're a Steelers fan watching this specifically, and we all have different opinions. I hope you thought throughout this video. I hope I at least made you think about this organization, the team, and the direction they're headed. But anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I hope y'all have an amazing day.